Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavathaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The Upanishad, Upadesha is complete. Yamadharmaraja talks about one more mantra, really putting all of them together, called Upasamhara. Upakrama is the beginning, Upasamhara is the conclusion. Now, Kathopanishad, like many other Upanishads, or the Bhagavad Gita, has talked about both upasana, karmopasana, as well as jnana. Bhagavad Gita also is like that. Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, both are available. This Yoga Shastra, the upasana, real purpose is not to go to another loka that we saw in the previous mantra, but for Chitta Shuddhi and Ekagrata, which are necessary conditions for us to gain this moksha jnana. Now he brings it all together with a mantra which is not unfamiliar. We have heard this statement, Angushtamatram. Angushta is the thumb. Angushtamatram. Like the Angushta, the size of the Angushta is thumb, the thumb. You know, thumb has a very significant role in the hand. In fact, it is used, the chin mudra is used as a wonderful, imaginative picture of what happens to us. We have these three fingers which stay together, Deha, Manas and Prana. And we have this fourth finger, which is the index finger, Ahankara, represents Ahankara and all the other Shariras. Normally, the hand is quite useless without this thumb, which is not connected to the rest. These four are together and they do everything together. The thumb is asanga, it is not connected to them. And yet, the hand is useless if the thumb is cut out. We know this. Practically nothing can be done without the thumb, which is away from the rest of the fingers. And in the chin mudra, what it represents is these three, Deha, Prana, etc., they represent samsara. This holds them. the ahankara holds them. And this ahankara has to bend, has to give in, has to surrender. Surrender is a bad word because it's misunderstood. To the Atma, forming a really nice, endless shape, nearly a circle. No beginning, no end. So when the Aikyam is understood, then the blessing of the Lord, with the blessing of the Lord, we recognize ourselves as the Purna Atma. Nothing more, nothing less. So this is the Chinmudra. In one simple symbol tells us everything that we're trying to learn, complete summation. This particular mantra also talks of both upasana and jnanam. Upasana, like I said, is a prerequisite for jnanam, but can also be used, as we saw in the previous mantra. Karma can be used as the means to reach Svargaloka ityadi. And karmopasana can be used as the vehicle for reaching Brahmaloka. And maybe from there, moksha jnana. But the real purpose of any upasana, any karma should be and in preparation for moksha jnana. Unfortunately, most humanity does karma. Although their drive is the same, the drive is to reach Purnatvam. But not knowing that, most humanity really continues to do karma out of ignorance. Vidya Janita karma. Sorry, avidya janita karma, not vidya janita karma. Avidya janita karma. So this talks about this Angushtamatra Purushaha. Angushtamatra, Angushtatulya, Angushta Sadrisha, like the thumb, says that Purusha resides inside. Now, many people use this as visualization for upasana. We have this need for something you can identify with, a location, a form, which is why we tend to choose to pray to Saguna Brahma with a form. So we pray to, we do upasana imagining that the Atma, the Purusha, is here inside. How much space will you have here? So really speaking, it is sarvavyapi. There is no specific space for Atma. But what we say is, the upasakas will look at this as the sthanam for ahankara. And eventually, hopefully, recognize ahankara, that adhisthana for ahankara is also the same Atma. So initial effort is to visualize the locus of ahankara and then eventually recognize ahankara's own adhisthana is Atma. So you have this beautiful phrase, Angushtamatra Purushaha. Purushaha itself actually gives you the entire Aikyam. How? Because Purusha has two different meanings. Pure Ushati iti Purusha. There in every being there is Purusha. We have this also in the Bhagavad Gita, Navadvare Pure Dehi, etc. The whole Sharira is called Pura, like a city. And in that is the Atma as the Niyata. So this is one meaning. And therefore we can look at it for Upasana's sake as Purushaha, Pure Ushati. But the other meaning you can derive the word Purusha is Purayati iti Purusha. One which inheres everything. Sarvam idam tatam. One who Vyapti. So the Purusha itself contains the entire Mahavakya in that one word. So when he says here, Angushtamatra Purusha, we recognize both. We recognize that in the Sharira, we have this Purusha who is both for Upasana as well as for Jnana. Angushtamatra Purusha. We have seen also this in the same Upanishad earlier. We have seen Angushtamatra Purusha Madhya Atmani Tishtati. In the previous Valli. Ishano Bhutabhavyasya Natato Vijugupsate. Etad Vaitat. That is the knowledge. This is indeed it. Recognizing the aikyam between the Purusha who is Pure Vasati and the Purusha who is Purayati. That aikyam. If one understands that aikyam, one understands the nature of Ishvara, one is really going in the right direction. Ishvara as the order, complete order. The Vyashti Samashti understanding. You have this famous example of wave and water and ocean. Wave is ocean. Ocean is not wave. Wave is born of ocean, is sustained by the ocean and resolves back into the ocean. Wave which has a very small lifetime compared to a Apekshik Nitya ocean. You can look at it like Jiva Ishvara Aikyam is one. And how do you establish the Aikyam? Because both are nothing but water. Both Jiva and Ishvara are nothing but Brahman. So you have both. For the Upasana, the wave can look up to the ocean as its Janani. Wave can bow down to the ocean as its sustainer. The wave can surrender to the ocean as that in which it resolves. Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, there can't be a much better upamana, much better imagery than this beautiful. So the mantra says, let's read the mantra. Angushtamatra Purusha.
Angushtamatra Purusha. No, I think we read it together. Angushtamatra Purushantaratma. Angushtamatra Purushantaratma.
सदा जनानां हृदये सन्निविष्टः
तदा
तदा
जनानां हृदये सन्निविष्टः
तं स्वाच्छरीरात् प्रबुर्हेत्
तं स्वाच्छरीरात् प्रगृहेत्
मुञ्जादिवेशीकां धैर्येण
मुञ्जादिवेशिकां धैर्येण
तं विद्यात् शुक्रममृतम्
तं विद्यात् शुक्रममृतम्
तं विद्यात् शुक्रममृतमिति
तं विद्यात् शुक्रममृतमिति.
Usually when you see the last line repeated, there were no textbooks that time. They were all oral. So how do you indicate that it is done and over? By repeating the last line. Many times when we say any prayer also, we do that. We repeat the last line. Just to indicate that that is over. The prayer is over. Here also, Tam Vidyat Shukram Amritam is the line. Tam Vidyat Shukram Amritam Iti. Finished. Angushtamatra Purushaha Antaratma. It is there in every jiva. Thing is, it is there everywhere. That everywhere must be understood as Tesha Atitaha. But here we're looking at a Upasaka and saying in the Upasaka also is the same Atma, Antaratma. And it is there, Sada Jananam Hridaye Sannivishta. Sannivishta is Basati, that same Dhatu. Is there in every jiva. Sada never goes away. When the body dies, that means the Sukshma Sharira has left the body, even then Atma is there. There is nothing without Atma. But Atma is not the body, Atma is not the Sukshma Sharira, Atma is none of them. When we understand, this is a very beautiful sentence here, Tam Swat Sharirat Pravarhet. One has to recognize this separately from the Sharira. Sharira means all Sharira, all forms of Sharira. Then what happens? You're never ever going to remove Atma separately. Atma has no existence separately when looked at from the Vyavaharika Jagat. It has to have a carrier. And that carrier is your Sukshma Sharira. And your Sthula Sharira where you don't recognize it because there is no life. In the Sukshma Sharira, along with the Sthula Sharira, you recognize life. And therefore I have Atma. But fact is, one has to cognitively separate it. This Sharira, Karyakarana Sanghata is not anything to do with the truth, with the reality. The only reality is the Atma which cannot be separated from the Sharira, all Sharira. In science, what do? Is we separate things and identify them. I mean, various processes of distillation we do to pick each element and study it. That's how spectrograph is born. Every element can be checked. But how are you going to do it here? Only through cognitive recognition. That is why we study so much. So he says, Tam Swat Sharirat Praharhet. Praharhet really means separate. Pratak Karoti. But you can't do it. You can only recognize it as separate. Pratak Karoti. How? Munjadi Veshikam Dhairyena. With a lot of care, samarthyam, diligently, with a lot of wisdom. And he gives us a example to understand. There is something called munja grass, which is supposed to be sacred grass. I don't know if you've ever seen the munja grass. It is very sharp. You can easily cut the finger. Actually, any surface can cut the finger. I don't know if you've experienced this. Even paper edge can cut the finger. Munja grass can definitely cut the finger. Within the munja grass is a stalk, very soft. So if you want the stalk, you have to remove the outer covering of the munja grass, but you will do it with a lot of care without hurting yourself. That munja grass is an example that is used here. Dhairyena munjadi veshikam. To separate it. Now here, in the case of the example has to be taken from the Jagat, where both the munja grass and the stalk within are in the same order of reality. So we have to understand this example for what it is worth. Only from the purpose of saying it should be done with a lot of diligence, with a lot of care, so you can actually separate them. It's a physical separation. Separation of Atma cannot be physical separation. It's only understanding. It's like saying, I see a crystal looking orange. Oh, it's an orange crystal. But I recognize it as only a reflection of the orange color of the clothes I'm wearing. Crystal itself is not orange. How am I looking at it? I'm saying, okay, crystal is crystal, it is colorless. And yet it looks like orange crystal. So I have to separate them by thinking. Cognitive way of separating. That's another example you can use. So like a munjari grass, swat sharira pravurhet. May one separate it. Once you do that, you recognize Atma as the only Satyam, everything has become part of the Jagat Mithya. Tam Vidyam Shukram Amritamiti. Shukram is Shuddham, purity. That knowledge gives you Amritam. It's a final word. The one who recognizes this, one who can see the Atma, you can't see physically, but you can see the Atma, becomes subject to Amrtatvam. There is no becoming Amrtatvam. There is not an elixir or something. It is simply recognizing Atma as the self. That is all that it's saying. Tam vidyam chukram amritam, tam vidyat chukram amritam iti. Introducing this particular mantra, Bashyakara brings out the fact that this is a complete upasamhara. Idanim sarvavalyarthaha upasamharartham aha. Now, in the last mantra, Sarpavalli Artha, the complete gist, summary meaning of all the vallis. We've done 6 vallis. This mantra sums it all up. Mantra is the upasamhara. To do the upasamharartha, samhara artha, artham aha. This mantra is said. And since Angushtamatram Purushaha has already been covered in the previous mantra, Etad Vaitat, he who recognizes this, There's not much in terms of Bashyam. Angushtamatra Purushaha.
Angushtamatra
Purushah
Antaratma Sada Jananam.
Antaratma Sada Jananam
Sambandhini Hridaye
Sambandhini Hridaye Sannivishtaha Yatha Vyakhyataha.
Shekara simply reverses to the previous mantras where this has already been explained. Vyakhyataha. What been explained? As explained already. Yatha Vyakhyataha. What? Angushtamatra Purushaha Antaratma, within every Atma, every Jiva, Sada Jananam, of all people. Sambandhini Hridaye, connected to the space within the Hridaya. Actually, they say that for Upasana, you don't use the Hridaya. Swamiji has explained that it's actually on the right side. You imagine a small space, and in that is the Ahankara. And that Ahankara is based on Satyam, Atma. Hridaye Sannivishtaha. So there is the locus for this Atma. Tam Syat. Atmiyat Sharirat Pravrhet.
Atmiyat Sharirat Prabhihet
Udyached.
Udyached
Niskarshet.
Niskarshet
Kuryat Ityarthaha.
Prithak Ityarthaha.
That Atma and that Sharira, they have to be seen separately, identified separately. Tam Syat Swat Atmiyat Sharirat Pravarhet. Atmiyat Pravirhet is the word taken from the mantra. And he explains, Pravarhet means Udyached, take out, separate. Niskarshet, make sure that they understand they are different. Prithak Kuryat, like I said, it's not something you can separate. You cannot separate the Atma either from the Sukma Sharira or even from the Sthula Sharira. You cannot see Atma. How can you see Atma? You are the Atma. Everything is the Atma. Space is the Atma. How are you going to separate and see Atma? You can't. But understand, it is all. That is why it is said, Upanishad, including Ishvara, has to be understood. There is nothing to see, nothing to experience, nothing to do anything, only understand. That is why it's called Jnanam. Sharira pravarhet, udyached, nishkarshet, pratak karoti, pratak kuryat. Separate it out. How do you separate it out? You do it very, very carefully. You spend a lot of time understanding the nature of the Atma and the nature of the rest of the Anatma. That's why we start by having an Adhikaritvam which says Atma and Anatma are pratak pratak. Therefore, we want Atma Anatma Viveka. Starting point. And by carefully understanding what the Shastra says, which is why you need a guru to open it out for us. And understanding the nature of the Atma and understanding that Atma and the rest of this we see are not in any way connected. Atma is asangaha, of a different order of reality. Kim iva? Okay. Kim iva?
Kimiva
Ityutyate.
Ityuchyate.
Ityuchyate.
How do you separate them? It is told. This separation is not a physical separation, we repeat. It is pure understanding. Munjadiva.
Munjadiva.
Munjativa.
Ishikam.
Ishikam.
Tikam.
Antastham.
Antastham.
Dhairyena.
Dhairena.
Pramadena.
Apramadena.
Apramadena.
How do you do this? Kimiva, like what? How do you do this separation? So the example given, like I said, the example is from within the Jagat. But we understand that more easily than any other example. But we have to understand that this example within the Jagat is from the same order of reality, separating two things which both belong to the same order of reality. But what it exemplifies is Satyam and Mithya. They have to be separated. Atma and Anatma. They both form different orders of reality. Munjadiva. Kimiva Munjadiva. Because munja grass, to separate ishikam, the soft stalk inside. Antastham, what is inside? Dhairyena apramadena. Apramadena. Pramada is what? Indifference, carelessness. Not carelessly. You cannot casually come and expect to understand nature of Atma. One has to first come to the state of understanding that I want to know Atma, there is something to be known, and there is this knowledge available in the Shastra. Therefore, accept Pramana, Shastra is the Pramana. Only then, with that kind of intensity, only then, that's why nobody will teach unless you're going to ask. Because you cannot understand. It's not a casual stumbling upon the knowledge. Tam sharirat.
Tam
Tam
sharirat.
Niskrishtam.
Nishkrishtam.
Nishkrishtam.
Chinmatram vidyat.
Chinmatram vidyat.
Matram vidyat.
Vijaniyat.
Vijaniyat.
Janiyat.
Shukram amritam yatoktam bharmheti.
Shukram amritam yathoktam
Pramamritam
brahmeti.
yathoktam brahmeti.
Tam atmanam sharirat niskrishtam. Chinmatram sharirat niskrishtam. May you understand that this Chinmatra Atma, which is only Chaitanyam, as completely different from the Sharira. The confusion arises, as we've seen again and again, because Sharira is Atma. Atma is nothing to do with Sharira. So that confusion is resolved. Chinmatram vidyat, may you know. Vijaniyat, may you understand. Shukram amritam yathoktam brahma iti. That is the Brahma that has already been explained in the previous Valli. So Bhashyakara is very clear. I'm not going to rewrite the whole thing. There you can go back and refer to that. Virvachanam.
Virvajanam.
Nirvachanam.
Upanishad.
Upanishad.
Parisamatyartham.
Parisamaptyartham.
Iti shabdascha.
Iti
Shabdascha.
shabdasya.
It also, Bhashyakara explains, Dvirvachanam is repeating of that last line. Their purpose to show the Upanishad Parisamatyartham. To show that the Upanishad is over. So this is a complete summation of the entire Upanishad, of all the teaching of the Upanishad, both Upasana as well as Jnanam. There are some Upanishads which only talk Jnanam. But many Upanishads will also talk about Upasana and Jnanam. Ishavasya Upanishad is a classic example. Chandogya Upanishad, except for the 6th chapter, everything else, most of it is really Upasana. Having completed this, with this it's all complete. It's also been summed up. But beautifully, the Upanishad, through the words of Yamadharmaraja, gives us encouragement. You know, sometimes one can get a question. Did Arjuna get moksha? Did Nachiketa gain moksha? Arjuna's case, it doesn't specifically say, although Arjuna says, I now understood. All my samshaya are gone. So hopefully he would have gained moksha at some point of time. Because his mananam is clear according to him. Here, Upanishad itself says, this young child, Nachiketa, who got into the state accidentally, but who is so clear in his mind that what I want is moksha jnanam. That there is something called moksha. That there is something following the death of the body. That something is dharma, dharma, anyat. Not subject to any punya papa, not subject to dharma, not subject to time, not subject to space. He recognized, maybe he studied that, I don't know. Maybe his father taught him. Upanishad itself categorically says, first it said in between, in response to his second verse, that he understood very clearly how to get to Swargaloka. But here it says, he understood very clearly that jnanam which gives you moksha. Again, introducing this verse, this mantra, Bhashyakara adds one line. Vidyastutyartha.
Vidyastutyartah.
Vidyasuttatah.
Ayam akhyaikartha.
Ayam
Ayam
akhyaikartah.
आख्यायिकार्थः
Upasamharaha.
Upasamharaha.
उपसंहारः
Aduna uchyate.
Aduna
अधुना
Aduna is now.
उच्यते
Now, the mantra that follows, the last one mantra, even after the thing is finished, because we have this replication of the last line. Even then, it gives you one more mantra. Vidyastutyartha. To praise, to glorify this vidya. Because moksha is infinite gain, purnatvam. And this vidya is all that is required. Paravidya. Ayam akhyaikartha upasamharaha. Again, summing up and clarifying. Aduna uchyate. Now it says. What does it say? Mrityu proktam nachiketo talabdhva.
Mrityu proktham
नचिकेतो लब्ध्वा
Vidyametam yoga vidim chakritsnam.
Vidyametam
विद्यामेतं योगविधिं च कृत्स्नम्
Brahma prapto virajo bhut.
Brahma
ब्रह्म प्राप्तो
prapto
विरजो भूत्
Vimrityu
विमृत्यु
anyo anyaha api evam.
विमृत्यु
अन्योप्येवम्
एवमेवं
Vidadhyatmameva.
यो
यो
विदधात्ममेव
विदधात्ममेव
It's very clear, no doubts, no this thing that Nachiketa got both. Mrityu proktam Nachiketa atha labdhva. Vidyam labdhva. Gain this knowledge. Etam yoga vidin cha kritsnam. Complete yoga vidhi also. There itself, Brahmaji said, Yamadharmaraja said, he was so happy with the way that Nachiketa understood that he called it Nachiketa Agnihi. So he clearly understood all that, but that's not the important thing. Brahma praptaha, that's a key word. Brahma praptaha. He gained Brahmatvam. Means what? It's not that he got some new property. He gained the knowledge of Brahman as I. Brahma praptaha became virajaha, no rajas, no wants. Why would he have any want? Why would anybody have any want once he recognizes his own Purnatvam? If you're Purnaha, there's nothing more than that. Infinite is complete. That is why Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purna, Purnamudachyate.
Purna.
Whatever you do, Purna only remains. You take out something from that, Purna remains. You add something to that, Purna remains. That you understand. He says, no Virajaha Abhut. He was completely freed from Punya Papa, completely freed from any karma, therefore karma phala, therefore Punya Papa, therefore Sharira, completely freed from there. And no more Mrityu, Amrityu. He got both. The Upasana also he got, Brahma Vidya also he got. That is, he is understood himself to be only Brahman. He knows the self as Brahman. Very clearly, without any element of doubt, this is the only Upanishad where it says you got it. Sometimes the Guru will tell you, you got it. You know, even in other teachings, Guru sometimes tells us. When you ask a question or when he asks you to explain something, explain, and he says, you've understood. My Guru said this to me when I wrote a series of poems on Vedanta Jnanam. I showed it to Swamiji. He very carefully went through all of them. And he looked up at me and said, you have understood. I can never say that, but my Guru can say that. You can't say that, but your Guru can say that. You've understood. This is what happened to Nachiketa. We'll read the Bashyam. Upasamhara of the entire story of Nachiketa. Why is Upasamhara? Because now it very clearly says he gained that Amritatvam. Not apekshika Amritatvam, that also he gained, but real Amritatvam. Absolute Amritatvam. Mrityu proktam yatoktam
Mrityu proktam
Proktam
yatoktam
yatokam.
etam brahma vidyam
etam
Etam Brahma
vidyam
Vidyam.
yoga vidincha
yoga
Yoga
vidincha
Vidincha.
kritsnam samastam
krishnam
Tam
samastam
Samastam.
sopakaranam safalam ityetat
Sopakaranam
Sopakarnam
safalam
Saphalam
ityetat
Yetat.
proktam yatoktam etam brahma vidyam. You have told him about Brahma Vidya, has given him all the knowledge. Along with yoga vidincha. Not only yoga vidhi and Brahma Jnanam, but he also is kritsnam completely. So that there is no room for doubt, there is no room for questions. Kritsnam means samastam. And then he has two other interesting words. Sopakaranam, upakarena saha. Upakaranena saha, sorry. With every other things which are required. You know, anything you do, there are many upakaranas. Even a pot maker, he makes a pot. We normally talk about the material cause and the intelligent cause. Clay as the material cause and the knowledge and skill of the pot maker as the intelligent cause. but he has a lot of upakarana. He needs that wheel on which he will shape the mud. He will need that stick to retrieve the wheel. He will need the sun to bake the final shape and so on. Oh, upakarana. Like that, all upakarana required for you to gain this knowledge is already available, have been given by Yamadharmaraja. Saphalam iti. Saphalam. Phalena saha. Including the phala, which you've seen in the last few verses. Nachiketaha.
नचिकेतः
नचिकेतः
Varapradhanat.
वरप्रदानात्
वरप्रदानात्
Mrityoho labdhva.
मृत्योः
मृत्योः लब्ध्वा
Prapyetyarthaha.
प्राप्येत्यर्थः
प्राप्येत्यर्थः
So, having been given this by his guru, Yamadharmaraja, Nachiketa got the Varapradhanat. Mrityoho labdhva prapyetyarthaha iti arthaha. He gained that knowledge. He had the capacity. He had all the necessary adhikaritvam. He had the necessary vairagyam with which he could tell Yamadharmaraja, you keep your vahanam, your dance and your everything else. I don't want them. I want only that which I asked for. Knowledge of the Atma. Kim Brahma Praptaha
किं ब्रह्म
ब्रह्म
प्राप्तः
प्राप्तः
Bhut. Brahma Praptaha Bhut.
ब्रह्म प्राप्तः भूत्
सः
Muktaha
मुक्तः
मुक्तः
Abhavat ityarthaha.
अभवत्
अभवदित्यर्थः
Brahma Praptaha Abhut. What kind of Brahma Prapti is there for him? That will give you Mukti. Muktaha Abhavat. Made him free. Made him completely independent. There's only one independent thing. Self-sustaining. And that is Brahman. Katham Vidya Praptya
कथं विद्या
तं विद्या प्राप्य
Virajaha Vigata Dharma Dharmaha
विरजः
धर्माधर्मः
Vimrutyuhu
विमृत्युः
विमृत्युः
Vitaha Vigata Kamad Avidyascha.
यतकामात् अविद्यश्च
Did together. Vigata Kama Vidyascha San Purvamityarthaha.
पूर्वमित्यर्थः
That once that Vidya is gained, Vidya Praptaha, it is Virajaha. No rajas, no wants, therefore no karma. Very clear. Therefore no punya papa. This is also the question that Nachiketa asked. What is that which is beyond dharma dharma? Vigata dharma dharma. He transcends dharma dharma. Dharma dharma belongs to the Jagat samsara. He is Brahman. He's got that knowledge. All of us are Brahman. We just haven't got that aproksha jnanam yet. Therefore, our dharma applies to you, adharma applies to you, punya applies to you, papa applies to you. Once that is clear, there is no punya papa, there is no dharma dharma. Vimrutyuhu, freed of mrityu. No sharira required. No wants, no raga. Those wants which drive you to karma, no karma phala, no sharira, therefore no birth and death. Birth and death belong to the sharira. Vigata kama avidyascha. Everything starts from avidya. Avidya, kama, karma is the sequence. Nothing is left. No vidya, no kama, no karma, no karma phala, no sharira. Na kevalam nachiketa. This is an interesting sentence from here. Na kevalam nachiketa eva.
न केवलं
केवलं
Ram
नचिकेतः
नचिकेत
Nachiketa
Anyopi nachikedavat.
अन्योऽपि
Anyopi
नाचिकेतवत्
Nachiketa
Atmavid.
आत्मविद्
आत्मविद
Atmavid
Adhyatmameva nirupacharitam.
अध्यात्ममेव
अध्यात्ममेव
निरुपचरितम्
Eva
निरुपचरितम्
Nirupacharitam
Pratyak swarupam prapya.
प्रत्यक्षस्वरूपं
Swarupam
प्राप्य
Prapya
Tattvameva iti abhiprayah.
तत्त्वमेव
तत्त्वमेव
इति
Ttvameva
इति
अभिप्रायः
iti
अभिप्रायः
abhiprayah.
Keta got it very clearly, Upanishad says. Nachiketa was a very much higher level of grasp and understanding I don't have. How will I get it? That anybody can get it. Like Nachiketa, you have to get adhikaritvam. You have to get the clarity to have the vairagyam. All that is here is useless. It is only useful in this samsara for limited end. All the clarity comes, it says, na kevalam nachiketa eva, not only nachiketa, anyaha api nachikedavat atmavit adhyatmameva nirupacharitam. Upacharitam is the secondary. Nirupacharitam as the primary knowledge. Pratyak swarupam prapya. Understanding Pratyekatma, that Angushtamatra Atma which you see as the self as Ahankara, when that is knocked out, and you see the Aikyam with Atma, Brahman, Pratyak Swarupam Prapya, Tattvameva iti abhipraya. That is the essence of everything. Na anyadrupam
न अन्यद्रूपम्
रूपम्
apratyagrupam.
अप्रत्यग्रूपम्
Very clear, nothing else. Pratyagrupam is the Pratyekatma jnanam. Nothing else. Anything else you take is apratyagrupam. Not what we're looking for. Tad evam adhyatmam.
Tadevam
एवम् अध्यात्मम्
Adhyatmam
Evam ukta prakarena.
एवम्
Evam
उक्तप्रकारेण
Uttarakareణ
Yaha veda.
यः वेद
Yaha Veda
Vijanati.
विजानाति
विजानाति
Janati
Iti evam vit.
इति
एवं
एवं
विद
वित्
Everybody can be Brahmavit. Brahmavit, Brahmaiva bhavati. And he tarati shokam. No, not subject to shokam anymore. Once you recognize oneself as Brahman, not this body, mind, sense complex, body, mind, sense complex, he is mithya samsara. Once you recognize that, so he says, tad evam adhyatmam evam. Ukta prakarena, the method that has been told to understand. The teaching method is already there in that. Yaha Veda, one who understands. Veda means Vijanati. Yaha Veda Vijanati. Iti evam vit. That is, he is the one who is knowledgeable like Nachiketa. What happens to him? Like Nachiketa, he or she can also be what? Sopi,
सोऽपि
Virajaha san,
विरजः
Vijaha
सन्
Sanna
Brahma prapya vimrityuhu,
Brahmaprapya
ब्रह्मप्राप्य
Vimrityuhu
bhavati iti vakya sheshaha.
भवति
भवति
इति
इति
वाक्यशेषः
Vakyasheshaha
Once you gain that Brahma Jnanam, that I am that Brahman is I. It is nothing to do with body, mind, sense complex. Body, mind, sense complex belong to the Mithya Jagat. And they exist only because of Brahman. But I is Brahman. Then what happens? Once Vijanati, evam with Vijanati, saha api. That person also, like Nachiketa, virajaha san, any want. No more wants. We can apply this to ourselves. Today, what is happening to us? There are so many things. I want this, I want this, I want the other. Something or the other is always there. As an undercurrent in our entire life, we have wants. But at some point, when this knowledge becomes aparoksha jnanam, logically, you ask yourself, why would I want that? Whatever it is that is I want. Aham purnaha. No, Swamiji, I still need, because I still have the sharira, I still have the sukshma sharira, the sthula sharira, the mind is there. It has to be, body has to be fed, mind has to be nourished. Sure. But you do it with knowledge, with clarity and understanding that I want nothing. I require this for this sharira because it has to survive for some more time. For this mind, so that it remains calm. I am not the mind. I am not the sharira. But the mind is still I. Sharira is still I. Therefore, whatever little things I do, but I do with complete asangatvam. Let it happen. Don't get upset by something. But mind gets upset, what can it do? Let it be upset. I'm just watching as a Sakshi. I told you this incident, it left such a strong impression in my mind. Somebody had a burglary in their house. A lot of things were stolen. And burglary can feel very intrusive. You feel you've really been sullied. Went to Swami Sakshat, one of the students, and said to him, this is what happened. So many things got stolen. Somebody broke into my house. Sakshat said, good. I was shocking. He said, good. How are you going to get vairagyam if you keep attaching to these things? So sooner or later we reach that state where vairagyam becomes clear. Then virajaha san brahma prapya, gaining that Brahma knowledge, that aham brahma vimrutyuhu bhavati. Therefore, no mrityu. Beautifully concluded. Nachiketa got it. Varapramadat mrityoho labdha prapyechyatah. Very clear. Kim brahma praptaha abhut muktaha abhavat. Completely, absolutely freed. Whatever happens to the sharira happens. Whatever happens to the rest of the Karyakarana Sanghata happens. I am not responsible. I am not involved. I am only a Sakshi. With these words, this Upanishad comes to a conclusion. In your own mind, you can review all of these things and see how Yamadharmaraja, as the teacher, developed the whole idea and how he concluded about how this knowledge is and what this knowledge does to one. With this Upanishad is complete. We will restart with another Upanishad, which I'll inform you shortly. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari.
We will
धन्यवाद.
either